My thing is, and this is where like race comes in, is I don't think that like Black America, we weren't the people who were like necessarily shocked or hurt by Kanye and his antics
Yeah. So
at the time.
let's back up to that for a second,
Yeah.
because that's a great point and great segue. So when you, because Kanye is someone you can't necessarily talk about this specific album in a vacuum, all that context matters, and we covered that on the podcast. But for a lot of folks that might not remember,
Yeah.
again, he already dropped 808s and Heartbreaks, and I'm gonna say something about that a little bit later. But after that, he is in that pop star space. He's transcended hip hop.
Yep.
And then you have the incident with Taylor Swift at the VMAs. I know it's a big meme. We use that, but outside of the meme, like, people, and specifically white people, were mad at this dude. Like,
For
we
what?
looked at this.
He interrupted Taylor
yeah,
Swift to say what?
To say that Beyonce had the greatest video of all time.
Black people agree.
Yes.
We're all going, are you serious? White America is saying, well, that was rude. He didn't need to interrupt her.
Yeah.
Which we might agree with. Yeah, that was rude, but he ain't wrong, right?
It went further than that. No, we laughed. Number one, we were like, what the hell is going on? That's just wild. But it's like, and sure, we might think Beyonce had a better video, but the reaction wasn't as visceral. Like, there's mad news clips. You can go back and look yourself. Like they
were pissed.
They were propping Kanye up, and this is why we're getting to why, talking about this album, you cannot not talk about it without the race portion because of where it went. Like, Jimmy Kimmel's on there, like, Kanye got on stage with this poor young artist. They're framing it in a certain way and making her look like this helpless, hapless person. Like he just like viciously attacked her. Where it's like, no, he jumped on stage and said something and gave her the mic back, and that wasn't cool. But it was framed like he was just this worst, terrible human being. People like Jimmy Kimmel was at his neck. Dr. Phil was like, he would do it to like 10, 15 people. Like, Dr. Phil wanted smoke with Kanye. You know what I mean? Like Wolf Blitzer or whatever his name is, CNN. Like this was everywhere. This was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then she had her follow-up where she was being interviewed by people and she was hurt and like just so like, and she, she was still a fan, but it was like, oh man. But dude, people were upset at this dude. So he's now having to go do an apology tour with the media. Like, if I would have known and I would have done this different. He's on a different interview. And then that's where we lead into him taking his sabbatical for 6 months in Hawaii, working on the album that came out to be this one here. And what he did, like, part of that was to get back into the good graces of pop culture and pop music.
This is the apology album.
This is the apology album. Because if we're talking about just like his impact and like how artists were influenced, then you can look more at 808s and Heartbreaks and say, that's where Juice WRLD and XXXTentacion, and all them, like, where they all derived from. This album ain't that. That's why it's tough to give, in addition to what I was saying about him and his style taken from Cudi. Because Cudi essentially crawled so Kanye could walk, so Drake could fly with this style. Like that's what it really is.
That's some crazy shit.
Yeah. That's real. But this album was essentially a huge apology album to pop America, to pop culture, to get him back into the good graces of pop music. And that's why we were talking about this so tough on the podcast, because you cannot not talk about that part without talking about this album. Otherwise, it makes no sense, because now this is where he comes into the, I'm a god. And before, he really was into Yeezy. Like, it was like his response. And now he's starting to build his stuff back up and, toast to the douchebags, toast to the assholes. You know what I mean? It's a backhanded apology, man. So you have to talk about all those things in context to this album. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, because Kanye doesn't separate himself as an artist from the person. Like,
Yeah.
So,
Facts.
Yeah, man. No, it's definitely extremely layered, and I think you broke that down very well.